I say to Bakkies, dis nou genoeg. And he puts his head through.
Enough,
I said, this is enough. And he puts his head through. He looks up and his face is all squashed like I said. He says, please, just one more.
What worries you about this England team? For us, for South Africa, what worries you guys the most?
Just their style. England can beat us.
Welcome to the box office. It's episode 7. We're at Stade de France once again. Last weekend we said there were going to be tears, and there certainly were. The Springboks have spoilt the party under massive pressure, but I've got two World Cup winners with me today, John Smit and Victor Matfield. How's it been, boys?
No, it's been good.
How's the liver?
We arrived on Friday. It was a pretty tough weekend, but luckily we're into the week now. All the nerves are settled, all the arrival aggressions are out, so we can focus on the rest of the World
Explain the
Cup.
arrival aggressions, Victor. You seem to know
It's called
more
Excitalitis.
about the Paris night scene than I know, and I've been here long.
Well, you arrive here with a few of your mates. Everyone wants to get into town. You tell them you've been there before. You have to take them to the right spots, and there's just no into it. You just keep going for 2 days.
John, you were in London. Brian Abana was moaning.
Oh, mate. I actually said to Brian the other day, I said, I know exactly how to tell when he's moaning. And he wanted to sort of know what his giveaway was. I said, it's when your lips are moving. So I mean, we go to this wonderful night. He's all the winning captains and Brian Abana. Obviously, because I think he captained under 14E at King Edward School back in the day. They put him right on the edge, but he was good value. And then we had a few
He was your
beers.
plus one, obviously, because that was World Cup winning captains and Brian Abana.
And Brian Abana, yeah. And so we then went back to the hotel and had a few drinks, and he had an early start. I think it was a 5 o'clock start. And so I think we ended up there at about 3 o'clock, so he had a good 2 hours, and then the moaning continued. As if it was my fault. I didn't hold him down there, but the boy can whine.
But he's got the best apartment here in Paris.
He has.
That's one thing Brian can do.
Habanero can organise like nobody can organise. He gets himself sorted.
Yeah.
Always. He can organise. You and me, we just go with whatever's put in front of us.
You guys didn't do well on this trip, huh?
No, Chivas. Yeah, look, it's going to be interesting. Talking about France, the game, where does that rank in terms of BOK performances? Where would you guys put that? I mean, you were here, the atmosphere.
Well, we've played here on the stadium in a World Cup final. It's my first time on the other side. I couldn't believe the crowd. It was unbelievable. We just spoke about it. I mean, to be a referee in a crowd like this, not giving everything to the home crowd must be very difficult because there's just something happening. The crowd went wild. And I thought the referees did pretty well. They stayed to their decisions.
They're getting stick. And I guess it's natural, but they are getting a lot. And they've been getting a lot of stick. Like I mentioned to Vic, it's probably the hardest job in the game of rugby at the moment.
Yeah.
Probably the least paid guy on the field with the biggest responsibility and the most pressure. So whenever...
So pay them more.
Absolutely. Pay them more.
Otherwise you won't have any.
They are so accountable and yet they really are. They become the villains of whichever team lost. And we are not throwing stones from glass houses because South Africans also like a little whinge every now and again about referees. But it is going to come a time where we actually we're probably going to chase whatever decent referees we are attracted to the game away from the game, but there needs to be something needs to be done. There needs to be more investment into these guys, or we're going to lose everyone we've got.
Talking about stick, John, the build-up. You've been getting some interesting messages saying.
Everyone says I look lit.
You looked fatigued. Let's just set the record straight here.
Normally,
let's set the record straight.
Normally, it's my wife that gives me stick first, but I can tell you that it was a dry day on Sunday, but that Saturday was a long day.
Yeah.
Saturday, I think we got a little bit too involved in that All Black.
That's the end of arrival aggression.
Let's talk about these 9 o'clock kickoffs.
Can I just can I just go back? So we arrived with my crew at 5 o'clock on Saturday morning.
Okay.
The first drink, and it wasn't like a little wine or something, Randavane
I
and
thought-
Coke.
So it wasn't a
At
mimosa.
5:30, it wasn't a mimosa at all. 5:30 in the morning, and we had to go straight through till 12 that evening.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Eh?
Jeepers. Gee, look, let's also.
Wait, look, we've
let's
got
bring
some
it
gym
back.
sessions in.
This,
Yeah.
one.
One. We've one this morning.
Shimmy, we're on the training bikes, and Shimmy takes a picture of us. He says it's to Jean. He says, we've been training every day.
But the two of you are looking in great shape.
Thank you
No,
very
we're
much.
trying.
Yeah.
We're trying.
So loudest.
Iconic moments. You look at the field. Which side was the Mark Cueto try? So-called try. Apparently 16 years later,
In
That corner.
Yeah, he put his foot out just there.
he put his foot out there. But some big moments.
Wasn't it almost half a meter out? It was like
It was
way
half a
over the
meter,
line.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, but the English, 16 years later, people still question that.
Even with those old school cameras, you can still see it's out. But you know what? It doesn't matter. They still lost by more than 7 points.
Exactly.
Wouldn't have made a
Vic,
difference.
that final, who did you chase? Was
Tate.
it Mark Cueto? It was Tate,
Tate.
sorry.
Tate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tate.
Plenty of pace.
Yeah, back in the day when we were still young and still had some pace. I always give Donnie a little bit of trouble because I think my tackle were harder than his.
Yeah.
He got all the fame for the tackle on the edge there. But yeah.
But let's talk, actually, going back to the first show, Skulk spoke about that Samoa game
Yeah.
with the two Langies.
Yeah.
And that's when the first 20 minutes, apparently, is probably the hardest 20 minutes a lot of you guys have played in.
These boys telling us about these two brothers playing and the biggest guy they've ever seen. So we walk out, of course, I'm just in front of Skulk Burger, like the South Africans do. We start with the captain in 1, 2, 3 in our numbers. And they spoke about this boy. And as I turn left, I see this guy and I'm like, Scala? He's big, but he's not that big, but good luck for you guys. And then he walked past and I said, that's the number 11. that's the small brother. And then all of a sudden I looked back and here Henry Tuolangi, number 8, standing at the back. I think that's the first game. I was very happy that I'm in the line out with a 5-man line
Do you
out.
remember
not
that
out
first
in the
line
back.
he ran flat?
We came from 40 meters.
Yeah.
And Skulk and Donnie were standing there going for it as hard as they can. Skulk hang on and Donnie finished on his back. And I mean, Donnie is 120 kgs himself.
That 20 minutes was about as physical as you could ever get. But it goes back to that first question around, was this one of the best performances from South Africa? There's different types of performances where you have a flawless performance where it's like at Twickenham
England.
against the All Blacks. England for
England.
us, 36-0.
England, the opening game, yeah.
But the best games, which provide the best results, are where you are. It's ding dong. It's you up, then they up. The pressure's on. You just don't know. I mean, we walk down with 20 minutes to go, thinking, okay, it's over, and then you get back. I mean, our closest game to that was probably Hamilton, beating the All Blacks for the third time in 09, where it's back and forth the whole time. And I think those are the test matches that really get people riled up and get people to an intensity that a flawless game doesn't really bring out in people.
But that's also where you see a quality team. I mean, we were outplayed. To be honest, I think in the first
You find a way. Yeah.
60 minutes we were outplayed.
Yeah.
The French arrived here. They were ready for this game. They had this crowd behind them. They were so good in that first 20 minutes. It's the first time I've seen South African defense scramble like this.
Yeah.
And not just on the edges. I mean, they physically dominate us. They got momentum. We
Made
couldn't
meters.
get back into line, made meters. I mean, the kicking game of DuPont, again, just on the right time, soft little digs through.
Yeah.
That put us under pressure. But this team's got a way to get through games and to win games. And to take that pressure, show character, and come through and win games.
The character's obviously massive going into this weekend, but now you hear about the preparation. The Springboks apparently trained with loudspeakers. The strategy of putting the long cross kick to the young French wing. So I think there was a couple of things that we got right on the weekend.
Oh, let's be honest. It's hard to know what gets said in the media from sort of South Africa's camp, because we've got to be the team that throws the most flares out in World Rugby. There's always something going on, and I think it's a smart tactic from the management, from Rassi and Jacques. There's always something that they're feeding into the equation, and the opposition doesn't know whether it's a flare or whether it's actually something for real. But they're smart, and we got to imagine coaching against these two guys. You actually just
Don't know what to
How do you
expect.
get on top of them? How do you know what's coming?
7-1, 6-2. The last
Don't know
week
what's
was
coming.
what's the split gonna
Rolling
be?
subs for the weekend.
announcing the team late also. Different strategy, but also Vic, there are also one or two things. It was the tap penalty move, which we've never seen from a Springbok team.
Yeah.
So there are certain things that they were trying to
There's
do things
always
differently.
something.
There's always
They've
something
always
new.
got a trick or two, and that's beautiful.
What's the trick going to be this weekend?
England, eh?
But Spinny,
Try and make as many scrums as possible, Shimmy.
that's probably the one thing where we were different in our days. We like to stuck to, this is
Yeah.
what we're doing.
We were
You can
super
know what we're
conservative,
doing.
Yeah.
Try and stop it. Where these guys, there is a certain DNA within the team,
Yeah.
but there's always something new. The mark that Damien Willems
Willems,
scored, and let's go for a scrum. That's something we might see this weekend against
Yeah.
England, where we had the upper hand in the last few games. Is if you catch us, let's go for the scrum. Let's try and get the
that
penalty
energy-
rather than just
Yeah,
kicking
that
it
gives-
out 20 meters further.
And that gives the team energy also when once they start.
And it's
getting
dangerous. I
penalties.
mean, anything goes down, it can go any way. But I
Absolutely.
mean, they
It's
back
the
certain
best
things.
exit ever, because
Yeah.
from that scrum they got a penalty.
Yeah.
Now
No,
you
but
get
I
your
ball
would do.
again.
Did you guys? I didn't know that you could on the mark.
Yeah, on any short arm you
on
can
the short
take a
arm.
scrum.
So it sort of happened
See,
in commentary, and
you're still
we were
learning.
looking at the show.
You're
What's
still
going
learning
on?
at
Still
45,
learning.
But again,
you're
that's-
always evolving and learning.
But Shami, who thinks about it?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
But Rassi and Jark, they like that. I mean, that was in the old days, back when it was still they coach in provincial level. It was not forming a ruck, staying out, running around, tackle
Yeah,
the
that's
guy.
true,
I
actually.
remember that. And
Yeah.
then other guys, I
The
think
lights
Brendan
also.
Fenter did it later on with Italy, but
Yeah.
they did it the first time in provincial rugby. So they always look at rules and think, how can we use it to our advantage?
We're always in for a surprise when
Yes.
South Africa plays.
Playing England, the old enemy. What does that bring out of South Africans?
It's something. It's probably, as a captain, is probably easiest week to motivate your players with, and it's, you know, and I suppose there's many reasons for it, but yeah, it's motivation will obviously there'll be no shortage of that. I think our issue, I guess, 16 years ago was complacency, and I think that might be something that's also something
Smitty,
to be
maybe
watched.
you spoke about it yesterday, that emotional high that we were on Sunday night, beating the French here, and now going to a next game. Maybe you can talk about
Yeah, well,
it.
that's how do you manage that? If you think
Yeah.
about 2019 and England sort of playing their final against New Zealand, and if you can't reset emotionally in that week and come down and realize, okay, we're back to square one again, you can get a surprise. I think. And we joked with Andrew Mertens, but if we took these two teams and they played each other 10 times in the last 2 years, you know, there's probably a large amount of those games would be won by South Africa. But everything's on the line, you know. So and there's this also desperation of a team from England that got absolutely ridiculed, that have resurrected their campaign. And then there's how desperate can our guys get again to give themselves an opportunity to go back to back. So there's lots to play for. There's always needle though. I always remember Bucky's facing Matt, and I've told this story 1,000 times, but you know, he just didn't understand how this guy born in South Africa could play for the at the time the Queen. He says, you know, I thought this guy played for the Queen. So I said, no, well, you know, he's got his grandfather was English and he's played at Bath for 3 years. And anyway, first scrum.
But he grew up right next to Loftus, so Bucky didn't like that.
So my explanation obviously wasn't good enough, because by the first scrum, Victor was always on the loose head and Bucky's was always behind the tight head. And the next thing I saw, Bucky's on the left. So I realized what was coming. So I pulled my head to the right and he flipping smashed Matt properly, like split him open. A nice little emoji. Off he went. 14 stitches later, he comes back on. Bucky's on the left. Something. Put my head to the right. He aims a bit off. About 7 pop of the stitches. He goes back off. Luckily, just before half time, stays off. First scrum after half time, I realised at some stage the ref's going to cotton on to what's going on here. This guy hasn't accidentally fallen on his face 3 times. And so as he comes, I say to Bucky's, "Dis nou genoeg," and he puts his head through. I said, "This is enough," and he puts his head through. He looks up and his face is all squashed like I said. He says, "Oh, please, just one more." And so today they're good friends, but I think that just shows the rivalry. I mean, my first game as a Springbok, I went in there, I was on the bench, and I listened to Andre Fenter talk about the history of the Boer War and what went on. So there's so many things that build
I
up
think Eddie
into this
Jones had a
game.
couple of stories. He couldn't believe it, I think, when he was...
That's the one guy.
Yeah.
That's the one guy we will be missing this week. Eddie Jones just riffing our players up. I don't
exactly.
think Bothik will go there. Bothik won't get involved.
I don't think so, no.
So we probably miss Eddie this week.
But he was pretty quiet there. It was more the English media. If you go back to 2019...
Are you saying Eddie Jones was quiet?
Yeah, no, but he didn't say anything. World Cup final 2019. He was surprisingly quiet compared to what he was against New Zealand in the semi-final.
Because they had the performance they did in the semi-final. I mean, he didn't have to say anything because they were the favourites going into it. Everyone said that team can't be beaten. And if you think, it's pretty much the same team. It's not a lot of changes from back in 2019.
Oh, and they're the only unbeaten team in the World Cup.
Someone just told us that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be preparing for the pressure. I mean, what can the Boks do this week? It's a 6-day turnaround from a training perspective, Vic. I mean, obviously you ran lineouts. What do you do? Do you come up with something new? Do you keep to what you're doing?
Yeah, it's a short week. But they would have planned for this way before.
Yeah.
I promise you. So they know exactly. There won't be a lot of training out on the field, I think. They'll try and get the guys fresh. But the big thing is the mental preparation. Getting back, getting that hunger back, getting that desperation back. Because unfortunately, the way we play as well, we need that desperation to really be at our best. We can't just come out, the All Blacks can maybe come out playing a nice brand of rugby, nice passes. We need to be mentally there. We wanted to, like we've heard in some of the videos from 2019, words they use, I'm not going to use it, but bugger them up in the game. So that's what we need. If we don't have that, England can beat us. And the way they've been playing, I think they're the one team that plays a very conservative type of game. They play in the right areas. They play territory. They don't take any chances, taking the 3 points, getting a little bit ahead, waiting for the opposition to make mistakes. And that's a difficult game to play against, especially for us that likes playing off turnovers.
That will really be the key to this weekend, is around how we get more territory. I think we lost the territory game. We had less than 40% territory. And the thing that worries me about that is if we can't get out of our half, if we don't exit well enough, are we going to see a Farrell or a Ford trying to hit 4 or 5 drop goals and pull a Hanyani debut on us as well? Yeah. So there's a lot that they can do to manufacture a win in a playoff game, and I think Victor's hit the nail on the head. We can play a conservative game and a physical game, but we also have shown some tendency. If you look at our backline to attack, and I think that's where we do have one up on them. I don't think they've got that attacking game. That ball's never going to go past Tuilagi, or very seldom is it going to go past Tuilagi. So we got to prepare for them trying to ambush us from a territory point of view and just getting that scoreboard to tick over.
But I'll go back to 2007. So first game we played England, I think it was 36-0. 0. The final was a lot tighter. What was the difference between that game and 2 months later?
It was a different team. To be fair, they were in disarray. They had a coach that they didn't believe in. They were missing Johnny Wilkinson. Had quite a few injuries, and when they got beaten by us 36-0, they had a bit of a player coup themselves, and they sort of went their own way and started to manage themselves and decide how they wanted to play, and so they turned themselves around, which is quite a powerful thing in a rugby team, because the guys they build this momentum, this belief in what they can do together quite quickly. So, yes, I think we were super conservative. We played that game just to get 8 points ahead. And once Francie put that kick over, we honestly did just turn the taps off and put the pressure.
But, I mean, I was there in 2015 when South Africa lost against Japan. We don't really want to talk about it, but pretty much the same. A lot of senior players that won the World Cup before in the group, almost just taking over and say, listen, this is where we need to go now. This is what's going to happen. I think that was very much the same in 2007. I mean, there was a lot of the 2003 World Cup winners in that group. And they weren't very happy with the coaching structures, with what was happening. And they just pulled things together. They got everyone to buy into what they wanted to do. Again, went almost to the ugly type of game, physicality, just being in the faces of people.
Big
and
pack, kicking,
they played well in the rest of the World Cup. But I'm with Smitty. I mean, in that final, we just wanted to win it. And I think And that was probably a little bit of a problem. We knew if we play well, we'll win it. They can't beat us.
Yeah.
So we just did what we knew. I mean, what we did best.
Yeah.
And we just stayed in front.
Make it as ugly as possible.
Take them to the
It
gutter.
was pretty ugly.
To
be honest.
the gutter. How was Jesse Kriel this weekend? I mean, geez, how good was he, Vic?
There's been so much in the media in the past, and fans talking about maybe he's not the best 13 in South Africa. He doesn't have the flair. I know Lukhanyo was here, and that's amazing. It's out at the moment, or it just came back. But the work rate, and Damien Dalende as well, those two guys, the work rate that they bring to the game. I mean, there's a lot of talk of Andre Estrada who's really playing well. But I mean, the work rate of those two centres of us is just...
I think the reality is
crazy.
that if people really are thinking that there's other centres other than Damien Dalende and Jesse, they need to just watch one of them
what they do off the ball
for 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah, without the ball. And their work rates, the two of them, honestly, they're like two more Kocha Smiths. Yeah, that's where they are unbelievable. And also when they have ball in hand, Damien's been bumping guys left, right, centre. Jesse's work rate on the outside, and Jesse's got the hardest job on defence. 13's hard.
He's up and down
all the time.
all
So
the time.
people don't understand how much a 13 has to work, especially in our defensive system. So that the guy walking past us with blood all over his face, that was a picture of, I think, what it took for that team to win,
to get through
on the weekend.
And he was cramping for the last 20 minutes. Every time there was a stoppage, he was stretching those calves.
Forget that.
And a lot of people say he doesn't have that skill level that the Lukhanyo's got, and Lukhanyo do have a special skill.
Yeah.
But I mean, his kicking game, his passing game, everything was there on Saturday.
But he also had to be patient and wait for his time, for his opportunity. I mean, Lukhanyo, since the last World Cup, has
probably the best 13 in the world.
Been the best 13 in the world.
A testament to his character as well, because
says a lot
most
about
guys
his
would get
character.
frustrated, and when you got at the time, Lukhanyo was probably best bro in the world,
Yeah.
and he was sitting on the bench and not getting opportunities, and then as soon as they started going to the 6-2 splits, he was getting
out.
less and less chance in
Yeah.
the 23. But mate, have you ever seen Jesse Kriel not positive? It's just
he's a good
just
man.
brings energy wherever he goes.
But talking about energy, it was also quite nice. I mean, the substitutions, John. Some of the guys, Moni Lobok gets taken off early, Pollard, Sia gets taken off early. But there is buy-in from the team, though. You could see the happiness around the squad.
Yeah, we again we go back 16 years, and everyone was trying to avoid the bench, and it did feel like you didn't play the same role. And I think the tables are completely turned over. I think now that bomb squad, the bench, is almost like an exciting place to be picked on. Everyone knows that they're going to be ending up finishing the game. They're going to be the ones changing the nature of the game's momentum as well. So that is another stroke of genius from Jacques and Rassi in terms of making the bench look cool. With giving it a new name.
It's crazy, but they got the buy-in from the players. I mean, before that Ireland game, when Dwayne wasn't picked, I sent him a little message here, are you all right? Why are you not playing?
Yeah.
And he just sent one line back to me, one team, one mission. And that's it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, not playing, happy, we're going, we're good. And there they go. So, they've got the buy-in of every player. Doesn't matter what the role is. I mean, thinking back about 2019, the Skulk Brits.
Yeah.
Almost just being the squad, to be that positive guy on the other side, in the week, in the training sessions, bringing the energy. And with this squad, it looks like it's the same. Everyone is buying in. Whatever your role is, you would go and do it on a game day.
How many games did you and Bucky's play together? Chess.
I can't remember. I think 78 or 87, one of those.
And at Loftus? And for the Bulls?
For the Bulls, we were probably close to 100 games together.
So everyone wants to know, how did the relationship, did you guys get on from day one?
Yeah, it was interesting. I started off playing for Griquas. Bucky's played for the Falcons.
Yeah, Falcons, yeah.
And he was a 19-year-old, and I remember playing him the first time. I was 22.
Yeah.
Bit more bigger back then, bit more aggressive as well. And there was this young kid irritating the shit out of me in that game. And I was like, who's this guy?
It's a Currie Cup game.
It was a Currie Cup game. And they said, no, this is youngster. He was SA Schools last year, just arrived at the Falcons. And I thought, what the hell? Yeah. Then we go to the Bulls 2 years later, and there comes this guy, purple Lanos, with this music in the back. boom, boom, into Loftus, and we all, who's the stepper arriving there at Loftus? What the hell? And this skinny Falcons guy walked out, and I thought, can't be. Do I have to play with this idiot? That was my thought.
So it wasn't all.
No,
flipping.
and that was the first day. And back then, Bucky's was about 107 kgs. I was 120 kgs.
Yeah.
But once we started playing together, things just connected, and we actually changed. When we finished, he was 125 and I was 107 kgs, and our roles changed while we were playing. But I mean, playing with Bucky's is just unbelievable. I mean, the physicality that he brings. Jeez. I mean, stopping line-out drives. You only need one guy. He just got in there and just disrupted everything.
He did make a massive difference. He also made your life as a captain a bit harder as well.
That was John's problem, not mine.
Jeez, the boy was...
What happened? What was it, New Zealand, when he headbutted? What's his Jimmy Cowan?
Jimmy Cowan. So he was in the scrum, and... you know when the whistle goes, it's like a long aggressive whistle. It's like when your mother calls you by your full name.
Yeah.
You know you're in shit.
Yeah.
And then I know the next words are green number 4. So I get myself out of the scrum, and this referee's worked up, and as usual I head off to the referee and I start telling the ref about Bucky's children and his charities and the fact that he goes to church every weekend, and I'm sort of trying to play into the referee's ear. No yellow card. Penalty. DC's lining up the kick to kick the penalty, and we're walking back, and I'm pretty proud of myself. I don't know what he's done, but he's not going off the field. And there's this massive screen. As we're walking back, there's this massive screen. And I say to Bucky's, have you done something stupid here? Because we've got the ABs next week again.
Yeah.
And he put his hand on my shoulder and says, Cappy, don't worry. And as he did this replay of him headbutting Jimmy Cowan goes on, and he checks to see if I've seen the replay. And then I'm obviously fixated on this replay, and he puts his hand back on my shoulder. He says, Cappy, don't worry, it's just a bad angle. 6 weeks, man. 6 weeks shame. To his credit, he waited for me in the team room in his number ones the next day. He felt bad because he knew that there was trouble coming.
Talking about the New Zealanders, New Zealand obviously not favourites. Against Ireland, did people make the mistake, Vic, of underestimating the Kiwis?
You can never underestimate them.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone asked, would we rather play in a quarterfinal? And for a long time, if you go look at the stats, there's only one team in the world that beats us more than we beat them, and that's New Zealand.
You said France.
Huh?
I remember asking you that in South Africa.
But he did. He chose France.
You said France. Rather play France. Yeah.
Yes, but I mean that's just New Zealand. They beat us more than anyone else, and I think right across the world. I mean they, for 90% of the time, they're the best team in the world, and they always got the players. They go through a little bit of phases, but it might be only 6 months, and they're back at the top. I mean, if you look at that team, the players that they've got in that team, if they turn it on, they'll always be a danger. But they did go through certain things, how they want to play, their 10-15 combination. But if they click on the day, it's very difficult.
They now become a
to play
tough nut to crack at this World Cup.
Mentally, where does this put Ireland as a World Cup team?
Pretty much where they've been for the last 30 years. Quarterfinal specialists. And it's a sad thing because they've been the best team in the world for 18 months. I'm part of the panel that picks the team of the tournament and the year, and there's so many of their players that are in that space of being the best in their position. But man, that almost gets to that stage now, like our Proteas team, or the All Blacks were before they won their first World Cup. Where
New Zealand was 24 years without a World Cup, but the best in between World Cups.
That's a real thing. So, and this is a really good team, and you got to think to yourself, how many of this crew have got another 4-year cycle then? Whereas the French team look like they've got a good 4-year cycle coming as well. You know, they would definitely have another crack. So you got to think about where Ireland's going to be in 4 years' time as well. But I mean, if I was in that environment, having played so well for so long and getting knocked out, I'd also cry.
But I mean, even the fans, we ended up with some of the Irish, mostly Irish, in a bar after the game Sunday night, and they really believed 100% they're going to win this World Cup. No one can stop them. And again, if you take some of the players, I mean, 80% of them or 90% play for Leinster as well. I mean, the best provincial team in the world without a trophy in the last 2 years. It's just unbelievable. Now it becomes a thing. I mean, that's going
and
to...
for Leinster and...
For Leinster
and Munster won the URC, funny enough, though.
Huh?
Munster won the URC,
but I mean,
there's more.
They only got like a few players playing in the test team.
What it does show is that World Cups are cruel.
Yeah.
World Cups are cruel. You know, I think we got lucky to win that quarterfinal in the death with a lot of character, and now we've got to reload, and we got playing a team that can also do the same to us as well.
But
on the
Smitty,
same
again,
final.
I mean, we talk about 2011. We really think we were probably a better team in 2011 than 2007.
Way more, we're better prepared.
Yeah.
Get to a quarterfinal, you should win it, but you don't win it, and the next morning at 4 o'clock you're out of Australia.
You're gone home.
On your way back home. That's it, done.
One team that no one's discussing, Argentina.
Yeah.
They've quietly gone on with their business. Obviously, the opening loss. What have you guys made of Argentina?
Well, we're getting asked that same question that Mertz asked us. If they played the All Blacks 10 times in the last 2 years, how many times would they have won? You know, and they've managed 1 or 2, but they've got better and better. The way they played in Marseille in that first weekend against England, you know, with a man down as well, up against 14 men, you know, it was so out of character for them. But they have seemed to have resurrected themselves, and again, another team that just gets ugly to beat the more and more they believe in themselves, and that's what a World Cup does. It builds your mental momentum nicely, because the more you win, the more you survive hard days, big moments. I mean, think about us. We had a wobble against Tonga, we had a tough quarterfinal against Fiji, where there were these moments that galvanize you, and they've had quite a few of those. So it'll be interesting to see how competitive they make themselves on the weekend.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be. I think it's going to be a easy game for the All Blacks, to be honest. They were very poor in the pool stages. They played better, and they can be difficult on the day.
Yeah.
But I think where the All Blacks are now, we know once they get confidence, they're so hard to play against, and I think they're just going to be too strong. I think it's going to be actually a
What do you think
bad
you could
loss for Argentina.
Even with the Michael Cheika factor, I mean, he's done it with Australia. He can bring the best out of teams.
He can bring the best out of them, but where the All Blacks are right now, they're going to be a difficult team to beat. Once they get that confidence, believe in what they're doing, believe in each other, it's very difficult to play the All Blacks.
So you reckon Argentina to go down, and obviously South Africa to go through?
Ah, man, I hate predictions.
Then we've got the big dance
obviously,
next
we all
week.
want South Africa to go
It's
through.
easier to predict the All Black game. It's harder to predict our own game.
Yeah.
Wait, what worries you about this England team for South Africa? What worries you guys the most?
Just their style.
Yeah.
Of course, they don't make a lot of mistakes. And I mean, Bothwick, a lot of those guys played for Saracens, and John has been there. They've won a lot of trophies at Saracens with the same type of game plan. And it felt for me, now after Eddie Jones left, they just went back to exactly what Saracens do. When they're in the half, they kick that high ball.
That's exactly what
they
they
trap
do.
them.
Yeah.
They try and force you into mistakes. They take the 3 points. I mean, the Japan game for me was almost like they showed what they're about.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult thing. I thought actually they were better when Ford were 10. He really played well. He controlled things. But this weekend, captain came through. Farrell came through.
Yeah.
And they're going to be a difficult team.
Yeah. This World Cup, what's been your best moment?
I honestly think that it's going to be difficult to top that experience of the last 20 minutes. South Africa versus France against the home nation.
The last 5 minutes felt like 80 minutes.
I know. That I haven't felt that much pressure and intensity as a spectator for, I think, ever in my life.
Yeah.
That was massive. Yeah, it's going to be hard to top that.
Vic, for you?
No, I'm with John. When we left upstairs in the pavilion walking down, we thought it's over. We thought, no, can't turn this around. When we arrived at the bottom here, standing here, all of a sudden we scored the try, get in front. And then, like you said, those last 2 minutes, I think we had 2 minutes left. We had the ball on the halfway line, and I know everyone's saying, let's keep the ball, but it was in our half, and referees always want to give that penalty sealing off. I think we could have kicked it a bit longer. We didn't have to do contestable. I would rather take it high into the 22, make them run from there, and then defending on our halfway line. And we know they don't miss a kick if they get a kick.
Yeah.
And Colby can't run it down if it's a penalty. So
it was the hand of God.
It was so close. And then to win. And I actually felt a little bit for this French crowd because they were into this game for the whole country.
Yeah.
But
amazing.
Yeah, for us as South Africans,
we sad France out
for the tournament. Look,
that should have been in South Africa.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's true.
We haven't forgotten.
Yeah.
Well, last week I heard they were mentioning revenge from '95. Funny enough, so somewhere along the line, there's chatter around '95. World Cup and Benazir scored that try. That's what they're saying. They should have
Yeah.
been using it as motivation last week.
Again, it's not going to give them the World
Yeah.
Cup.
Yeah.
It's done. It's over.
At least
Doesn't help you talk
they
about
got
it.
to host it.
Yeah?
They got to host it.
They got
at
to
least.
host it.
Yeah.
We'll see them next time.
Yeah.
We still talk about Bryce Lawrence as well. But it doesn't help. We still not.
Yeah.
we
Doesn't
still,
matter how many times I mention his name, we still don't go through the semi-final.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. It's been good. Take it easy this week.
This is an easy week,
John, we can't be getting messages saying,
No,
John
no.
looks sick on TV.
I'm going to look bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Golf tomorrow.
Yeah. With the big man, yeah?
We'll be
Where you
waiting
guys
for
playing?
you.
Thanks for the invite. Where you guys playing?
Le Bond.
Is it?
Private course. They say it's unbelievable.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy it. We'll be back next week for the box office, which is now closed. It's the big dance, and hopefully it's going to be South Africa against the All Blacks. Cheers, everyone.